Ever notice how, like, uh, uh, winning sports team isn't just about, like, the star players? You know, it's the coaching staff, the trainers, even the folks making sure everyone's got clean uniforms, the right equipment.
Right, right.
Seems basic, but without them, the whole game falls apart.
Mhm.
Kind of like what we're digging into today, but on a way bigger scale. The U.S. Army's playbook for sustainment, ADP 40.
Yeah.
Specifically Chapter 1, where they break down why sustainment is the key to keeping the Army rolling no matter the mission.
It really is fascinating, how something we take for granted every day, like having the right stuff at the right time in working order, how that becomes absolutely mission critical in a military context, right?
Yeah.
ADP 40, it makes it very clear. Sustainment, this isn't some afterthought.
Right.
This is providing the logistics, the financial management, the personnel services, and yeah, even the health services that allow the Army to operate effectively from, day one to mission accomplished.
So it's not just about, like, having the biggest weapons. It's about the staying power to use them effectively long term.
Absolutely.
I'm already seeing why this is a deep dive we need to have.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's dive into it. Right off the bat, ADP 400 calls sustainments one of the 8 TTT essential elements of combat power. Are they serious?
They are absolutely serious. It's often called the unsung hero, right?
Okay.
Because while it might not be as glamorous as, tanks and fighter jets, it directly impacts the Army's ability to actually operate, right? Think
Yeah.
about it. You can win a single battle, but without sustainment, you can't sustain a campaign, let alone achieve those, long-term strategic goals.
So it's the difference between, like, a sprint and a marathon,
Right.
right? Sustainment keeps the Army in the race for the long haul.
Exactly. And robust sustainment, it gives those commanders more options, right? They can adapt to those surprises, take advantage of opportunities, and just keep their troops supplied and ready, rain or shine, literally.
Okay, that makes total sense. Okay, let's get into, like, the nitty-gritty, right?
Okay, yeah.
ADP 40 breaks sustainment down into 4 main elements, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the legs of a table,
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
each one vital for stability.
Absolutely. Those 4 crucial legs: logistics, financial management, personnel services, and health service support. They work together to create that sustainable and robust force that's ready for, anything.
Okay, sounds like a lot to unpack. Let's start with logistics. I'm guessing that's about way more than just shipping crates around.
You are absolutely right. ADP 40, it calls logistics the planning and execution of the movement and support of forces. Imagine a massive operation, like deploying a brigade to another continent.
Wow, yeah.
Without a rock-solid logistics plan, it would be complete chaos.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Troops showing up with, like, winter gear in the desert, vehicles out of gas in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. It's about getting the right stuff to the right place at the right time, every time. And ADP 40, it breaks logistics down even further into 7 essential elements. We've got maintenance, transportation, supply, field services, distribution, operational contract support, and general engineering support.
Okay, I'm already feeling the brain stress, right? Yeah. So much goes into this, even just on the logistics side. Let's tackle these one by one, starting with maintenance. I always thought that was just mechanics, but ADP 4 New talks about both field maintenance and the sustainment maintenance. What's the difference?
Think of it like this. You're on a road trip and suddenly you get a flat tire. Okay, so field maintenance is like pulling over, grabbing the spare, and changing it yourself to get back on the road quickly.
Yeah.
Sustainment maintenance is taking that flat tire to a shop for a patch and making sure all your tires are rotated and balanced for long-term performance.
So field maintenance is about quick fixes in the field, while sustainment maintenance is more like preventative care and major repairs,
Yeah.
often happening away from the front lines.
You got it. And both are essential for keeping equipment up and running, but they come with different challenges. Field maintenance requires that resourcefulness,
Yeah.
being able to just make do with limited resources and under pressure.
Right.
Sustainment maintenance, well, that requires meticulous planning and coordination to transport that damaged equipment, get it repaired properly, and then get it back to where it's needed.
That makes sense. You got mechanics under fire, literally, versus teams back at base with the time and the tools for a complete overhaul. I can see why both are crucial. Speaking of keeping things moving, let's dive into transportation. ADP 40 really emphasizes its role in giving commanders that flexibility, that reach.
It's about more than just having a lot of trucks and helicopters, though those are obviously important.
Yeah.
It's about managing them effectively and coordinating those different modes of transport, what ADP 40 calls intermodal operations.
Oh, okay.
Imagine, you need to get a battalion across an ocean, then cross a desert to a remote outpost. You might use ships, then trains, then trucks, all perfectly timed to get them where they need to be.
So it's like a giant logistical ballet, right?
Mhm.
With ships and trains and planes and trucks all moving in sync.
Exactly. And all of that needs to happen right within the broader strategy of what ADP 40 calls feeder distribution. Think of it like that overall flow of personnel and supplies, right? Within a specific area of operations.
It sounds like trying to conduct an orchestra, but with tanks and cargo planes instead of instruments.
You could say that. Now let's move on to an aspect of logistics that's often, I think, overlooked, but just as crucial: supply.
Okay.
And before you ask,
Yeah.
it's way more than just beans and bullets.
Oh, I was just about to ask. I'm guessing it takes a lot to keep the Army stocked up.
It absolutely does. ADP 40, it outlines 10 different classes of supply.
Wow.
We've got everything from Class I, which covers, the essentials, food, water, all the way to Class X, which deals with all sorts of civilian support equipment, like what you need for humanitarian aid or rebuilding efforts.
Wow, 10 categories. That's way more than I imagined. It shows how much goes on behind the scenes to support not just combat operations, but the bigger picture too.
Exactly. And while some of these classes might seem less exciting at first glance, they're all crucial. Take like Class 7, for example.
Okay.
That covers major end items like tanks, helicopters, the big stuff.
Right.
But without a reliable way to get those to the fight, the whole operation grinds to a halt.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having the best players in the world, but no stadium to play in. You can't win a game without a field. What else
Yeah.
have we got in these classes?
Well, I bet you can guess what Class V is.
Given the beans and bullets comment earlier, ammunition.
Bingo.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just bullets, it's all types. Ammunition, from small arms to artillery shells to missiles. The sheer volume and variety of what falls under Class V is mind-boggling.
It makes sense, though. Without ammo, the whole combat power thing kind of loses its punch, right?
Exactly. It highlights how sustainment, even down to something we might just take for granted, is what allows the Army to actually achieve its objectives.
I'm starting to realize that sustainment is way more interesting and important than I ever gave it credit for. So we've got the big guns covered, but what about keeping the soldiers themselves going? That's where field services come in.
You got it. And this is where we really see sustainment directly impacting the lives of those soldiers on the ground, right? Keeping them fighting fit and morale high.
Okay, field services.
Hmm.
It sounds almost relaxing, like we're setting up picnic blankets and handing out lemonade. I'm guessing it's a bit more intense than that.
You could say that. While it definitely includes things that boost morale, it's serious business, ensuring soldiers have what they need to operate effectively in challenging environments. Think about something as essential as, like, showering and laundry.
Right.
It might seem small, but being able to just maintain basic hygiene,
Yeah.
that can make a huge difference in a soldier's, physical and mental well-being, especially on those long deployments.
Totally. It's easy to forget those basic needs when we're talking about tanks and ammo, but they're crucial for keeping soldiers going. What else falls under field services?
Well, there's the incredible logistical feat of, like, aerial delivery. Imagine needing to get supplies to a platoon, but they're cut off, deep in enemy territory. That's where aerial delivery comes in, using parachutes and specialized aircraft to get those vital resources where they need to go.
It sounds like it's something out of an action movie. What about food?
Mm.
I imagine feeding an entire army, especially in remote locations, is a massive undertaking.
It absolutely is. Field feeding is a core function of field services,
Oh.
making sure that soldiers are getting 3 square meals a day no matter where they are in the world.
Wow.
They even have mobile kitchens that can be set up in a matter of hours.
That's amazing. So it's not just about MREs.
While MREs definitely have their place, providing those meals whenever possible, huge morale booster.
Yeah, I bet.
And of course, there's water purification.
Right,
there.
yeah.
Access to clean water, it's absolutely critical for survival. So field services are responsible for making sure that happens, even in areas where water sources are contaminated or scarce.
It really highlights how much thought goes into keeping soldiers healthy and operational. It's not just about fighting. It's about surviving and thriving in difficult circumstances.
Exactly. And then there's the sensitive and critical task of, contingency fatality operations.
Right.
It's a somber reality of military service, but ensuring that fallen heroes are treated with the utmost respect and dignity and that their families are supported, that is a top priority for field services.
That's a side of things we don't often hear about, but it's incredibly important. It shows that sustainment is about taking care of soldiers throughout their entire service and beyond.
It's about honoring the sacrifices made by our service members, in life and in death. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about a different kind of support, operational contract support.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that all about?
It's about recognizing that the Army can't always do everything itself, right?
Right.
Sometimes it makes sense to tap into civilian expertise to supplement military capabilities.
Yeah.
Think about things like, construction projects,
Yeah.
logistics support, translation services, even cybersecurity. These are all areas where civilian contractors can play a vital role.
That makes a lot of sense. In today's world, it's all about leveraging expertise wherever you can find it.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of how this plays out in the real world?
Absolutely. Think back to the early phases of operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. The US Army was facing this massive logistical challenge, trying to build bases, transport supplies, support troops in a completely new and challenging environment.
Right. I remember hearing about that.
Well, civilian contractors, they played a crucial role in making all that happen.
Wow.
They were involved in everything from building infrastructure to providing security to translating documents. Without that support, the logistical burden on the Army would have been overwhelming.
Wow. Talk about a force multiplier. It's amazing how much civilian support contributes to the Army's overall success. Okay, we've talked about logistics getting the right stuff to the right place, but what about the money behind it all? That's where financial management comes in.
You got it. And ADP 4.0 makes it clear that financial management in the Army, it's about way more than just balancing the books, right?
Right.
It's about being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, ensuring that every dollar is used effectively to support the mission and the troops.
So it's about accountability, transparency, making every cent count. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, ADP 4.0 breaks it down into two key areas.
Yep.
Finance operations and resource management. You can think of these as like the how and the why of military spending.
Okay, I'm interested. Tell me more about how these two differ.
So finance operations, it's all about the nuts and bolts.
Okay.
Handling payments, managing bank accounts, ensuring that money flows smoothly even in the middle of a battlefield. It's a huge responsibility, making sure soldiers get paid on time,
Right.
that vendors get their invoices settled, that operations are properly funded even in chaotic situations.
It's like being an accountant in the middle of a war zone.
Exactly. It takes a special kind of skill set to manage finances effectively under those conditions.
I bet.
Now, resource management, this takes a broader, more strategic view. It's about analyzing the Army's needs, forecasting costs, and figuring out how to allocate resources in a way that maximizes their impact.
So while finance operations is focused on the day-to-day, resource management is playing the long game, making sure the Army has the funding it needs for the future.
Precisely. It's about making smart decisions, right?
Yep.
About what to buy, what to invest in, and how to just use resources efficiently to maintain readiness and meet the challenges of, an ever-changing world.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like planning for your household budget, but on a massive scale and with national security at stake.
You could say that, and ADP 4.0, it outlines 5 core competencies of financial management.
Funding the force, banking and dispersing, pay support, accounting support and cost management, and audit readiness. These are crucial for ensuring transparency, accountability, and responsible stewardship of those taxpayer dollars we talked about.
Speaking of responsibility, maintaining that audit readiness sounds incredibly important, especially for just maintaining public trust.
It's absolutely crucial. Being audit ready means having all your financial ducks in a row, right? Being able to clearly demonstrate that funds are being used appropriately, effectively, and ethically. No one wants a repeat of those, infamous Pentagon procurement scandals.
That's for sure. It really highlights the importance of having skilled and trustworthy professionals managing the Army's finances. Now, we've talked a lot about the logistical and financial sides of sustainment, but let's talk about the heart of the Army. It's people. That's where personnel services comes into play, right? Absolutely. At the end of the day, the Army is not about, tanks and planes and budgets. It's about the dedicated individuals who make up the force. And personnel services are all about taking care of those individuals, right?
Right.
Ensuring the Army has the right people in the right roles at the right time and that they are well cared for throughout their service.
That makes sense. It's not just about recruiting and training. It's about supporting soldiers throughout their entire military journey.
Okay.
Yeah. So personnel services is about way more than just like, HR paperwork. It's about people.
It really is. And it encompasses, a huge range of functions, like from managing those promotions, assignments,
Yeah.
to coordinating casualty operations, providing legal support to soldiers and their families.
Yeah.
It's about that entire soldier life cycle.
Wow, that's a huge responsibility. ADP 40 specifically calls out like 4 key areas within personnel services, right?
That's right. Manning the force. Providing those human resource services, coordinating personnel support, and then conducting those human resources planning and operations. And within each of these areas, there are countless processes and procedures that are designed to ensure that the Army is taking care of its most valuable asset, is people.
So it's like, having a well-oiled machine for managing like the human side of the Army, from recruitment to retirement and everything in between.
Exactly. Take something as essential as like strength reporting, which falls under manning the force. This is critical for making sure that units have the right number of soldiers, right?
Right, yeah.
With the right skills to carry out those missions effectively.
It's like making sure all the pieces of a puzzle are in the right place.
Precisely. And then there's casualty operations, right? It's a
Right.
very difficult but essential aspect of personnel services.
Right.
Ensuring timely and accurate reporting, as well as providing, compassionate support to the families of fallen soldiers, that is a top priority.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to think about, but those tasks are just as vital as any other in like the sustainment realm, right?
Absolutely. And we can't forget about legal support.
Yeah.
It's not just about courts-martial either. This
Right.
includes, advising commanders on legal matters, helping soldiers with like personal legal issues, and even providing that legal assistance to families.
That's the side of the military we don't often consider.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that legal expertise is crucial in such a large and complex organization, right?
It's absolutely essential. And speaking of essential support, let's talk about a group that plays a very unique and often overlooked role, the chaplain corps.
Ah, yes. Religious support.
Yeah.
Providing for, the spiritual needs of soldiers. It's something we don't always associate with the military, but it makes perfect sense. Tell me more about how that works.
The chaplain corps, they're dedicated to ensuring the free exercise of religion for all soldiers, right? Regardless of their beliefs or lack thereof,
Right.
They provide religious services, counseling, guidance, and they play a crucial role in supporting soldier morale and that spiritual well-being, especially during times of stress and hardship.
I imagine that kind of support is invaluable, particularly during like deployments and combat situations.
Absolutely. The chaplain corps, they offer a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, and just a source of comfort and guidance when soldiers need it most. They also play an important role in advising commanders, right, on ethical matters, helping them to navigate the moral complexities of military service.
It's a reminder that the Army recognizes the importance of the human spirit, even amidst like the harsh realities of war.
Exactly. And speaking of reminding people about that human element of the Army, there's one more fascinating aspect of personnel services I want to touch on: Army band operations.
Oh, interesting. So it's not all serious business?
While it might seem surprising at first, right? Army bands, they actually play a vital role in boosting morale, supporting recruiting efforts, and even just building those relationships with local communities, during deployments.
I never would have thought of that.
It's true. Music is such a powerful tool for connection and communication, and Army bands, they use that power to great effect. They bring people together, they lift the spirits, and they help showcase the human face of the Army. And according to ADP 40, they're a critical part of the Army's overall sustainment strategy.
That's amazing. It really goes to show you that sustainment touches every aspect of military life, often in ways we wouldn't expect. So we covered a lot of ground here today, from the logistics of moving tanks to the importance of clean laundry in a war zone, to even the power of music to boost morale.
Yeah.
Right? It's clear that sustainment is more than just like a support function. It's woven into the very fabric of the U.S. Army.
That's a great way to put it. Sustainment, it isn't just about winning battles. It's about ensuring that the Army can fulfill its mission, whatever that mission might be, today and into the future.
It's about having the staying power to see things through, no matter how long it takes or how challenging it gets.
Exactly. And as technology advances and, the nature of warfare continues to evolve, the challenges and opportunities facing Army sustainment, well, those are only going to become more complex and more critical.
Which makes this deep dive all the more relevant. It's given us a framework for understanding that essential role sustainment plays in the Army's success.
And hopefully it's sparked some curiosity to learn even more, because this deep dive, it was just a starting point, a glimpse into this intricate world of Army sustainment as laid out in ADP 40.
It certainly has for me. And I'm willing to bet our listeners are walking away with a whole new appreciation for the often invisible heroes who make it all happen. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.